We will begin our news conference by asking our head coaches for an opening statement, and then we will move to the floor for questions. And we will start with Coach Sarkisian. Coach?
Yeah, I'd like to begin with, first of all, with the recent tragic events in New Orleans and obviously what's happening in Los Angeles right now. Speaking on behalf of myself, Coach Day, both of our programs, our thoughts and prayers are with all those that have been affected by this. What is happening in Los Angeles right now is unfathomable. Being from Los Angeles, a lot of friends and family there that are affected, and so I just hope everybody out there can keep their thoughts and prayers with those, and obviously those in New Orleans with some of the tragic events that have occurred. As far as being here at the Cotton Bowl, it's an honor. Obviously, being at the University of Texas and the Cotton Bowl are synonymous with one another. I can't believe it's been over 20 years since the University of Texas has been in this game. So to be back, it's an honor. Obviously, being the semifinal game. I think it's a credit to our players and to our staff, the work that they've put in. 2 years in a row we've been in this place now, and it's been something that we were striving for when we first took over the program. And so year 3, year 4 to be back, it's definitely it's an honor, but it's also a credit, I think, to the people in our organization for the work that they've put in. That being said, we've got a great opponent. That doesn't need to be said probably much more. I mean, Coach Day's done a great job. He's got a tremendous staff, great talent on their team. They've navigated the season tremendously. I think in this day and age of college football, to think that you're just going to go unblemished is probably not realistic, especially not in our two conferences with the amount of quality teams that you have to play week in and week out. And the grind that it puts on your team, not only physically but mentally. And it's, I think, the ones that can be standing here January 9th and 10th playing for an opportunity to play for a national championship. I think, the credit is due to all 4 teams, but obviously the job that he's done to get them here. So it's a great honor. It's humbling, but it's also a great opportunity and one we're looking forward to.
Okay, Coach, thank you so much. Coach Day?
Yeah, I'll echo Coach Sark's comments, certainly about all the tragedies that are going on, certainly in California and Coach's background there, and certainly just being there last week has given our coaches and team opportunity to pause and certainly give our thoughts and prayers to those that are going through that difficult time, and certainly those in New Orleans. We're very excited about being here again. I think the Cotton Bowl does a great job and hosting their teams. I think their team does a great job. It's a great setting. Certainly, AT&T Stadium is one of the best game environments there are throughout college football and the NFL. So we're excited to be here again. I'll say this for our team. We every week we've had an opportunity to grow and to build, and we're excited about being here in this spot. Again, I'll echo what Coach said about this new format has allowed teams to grow throughout the season. And I think Coach Sark has done a great job, and his staff and his team, of growing throughout the season. You can see every week, every month, as the season has gone on, they've grown, they've changed, they've adapted, they've built, and they've stayed resilient throughout the season. And they're a very, very good opponent, very, very talented, well coached, played in big games before. And so it's a great opponent, and it's going to be a great atmosphere. Our team's very, very excited about playing in it, and I'm excited for our fans. I think that when you think about the players and the coaches in this new format, week after week, the work that they're putting in, but also for our fans, the lengths that they've come to decide to get on a plane and buy tickets to come to this game, and then throughout the country. I think it all matters, and I think. It's great for college football, and it's great for Ohio State, and it's great for Texas.
Okay, Coach Day, thank you so much. Let's now move to questions from the floor. Remember, please raise your hand, and we already have a bunch up, and we will get a microphone. I think our first question should go here on the right, on the aisle, second row, okay?
I've got Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. A question for each coach. Ryan, you guys have had the fewest offensive snaps of any of the semifinalists. Chip Kelly said last night that was by design, I'm assuming, just to reduce the wear and tear. How much of a benefit do you think that is right now? And for Coach Sarkisian, you said in our Zoom thing last week, that you were a massive underdog. Why do you think that?
You want Coach Sark to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, the reason they have the least amount of snaps is because they're scoring so fast. There's so many big plays that are happening. But some joke in there, but some reality. You know, they've been extremely explosive offensively. And I think a lot of times, you know, in this format, now we're kind of in this NFL format model, it's not always about who was the best team for 12 games. It's who's playing the best football this time of the year. And I think we could all agree what Coach Day's done, their team, you know, them coming out of that Michigan game and what they've been able to do since the playoffs have started has been tremendous. And that's a credit to Coach Day and his staff of regalvanizing that roster and getting them going. And I could probably poll everybody in this room, and you'd probably all agree they're the favorite to win the game. And that's okay, but that's football, that's sport. That's why we have to do what we do. So not going to back off of what I said. The reality is the reality. Now we have to go perform. That's our responsibility as a football team to go perform. But they've earned that right because of the way they've played here the past couple weeks.
Yeah, and you know, I just feel like every week is a whole new week. And so, you know, certainly the way that Texas won the game last week, you know, there's momentum there. And I think it's important for all of us, if we have momentum, to keep it. If we don't, we have to go get it. But the truth is that nothing that Ohio State has done or Texas has done up until this week has anything to do with what's going to happen in this game. Zero. And, you know, if you think any otherwise, then just go back a couple weeks and see where we were a couple weeks ago. And so every single week, the slate is wiped clean, and you have to start from scratch again. And that starts with your meetings, with your walkthrough, and with your preparation. And so the bottom line is this game is going to be played, and the team that plays the best and executes the best is going to win the game. And so there's a lot of opinions out there, I'm sure, of, you know, what everyone's going to expect. But ultimately, it's going to come down to the players on the field and how they play. And there's going to be a lot of great players on both sides, and it's going to come down to who takes care of the ball and ultimately executes better in the end. So it should be a great night for football. And so certainly we're obviously excited about playing in the game. In terms of the way that we designed this year, you know, part of it was the fact that we felt like by cutting down the number of snaps, it would certainly help with the length of the season and the health of our team. But also getting in a huddle and having Will Howard look 10 guys in the eye and break a huddle together kind of grew as the season went on. And there was a little bit, a part of that we felt like gave us a little bit of an edge. We broke the huddle together, which I know it sounds crazy, you know, the huddle, you know, it's almost like going back in time, but it's sort of a new thing really because of, you know, the no huddle offenses that have been around, and certainly we've been a part of that. But as time went on, the guys felt more and more comfortable and broke that huddle together as a group and as a team and as a unit. And I think that helped us. Now, we don't always do that, but it has allowed us an opportunity to be more cohesive on offense.
I think we have a question on the inside aisle. If we could move to that, and then we'll go back to that side. But the microphone's coming to you. Just hang on. Here on Coach's left.
Josh Newman from Lone Star Live. Steve, with Jay Hartzell leaving his post as UT president in a few months, can you just reflect on your time working with President Hartzell? He's the guy that hired you, obviously.
Yeah, I have so much respect for Jay Hartzell and President Hartzell. You know, he was interim president at UT, and he was interim in the midst of a pretty tumultuous time with COVID. We had social injustice. He had to make a hire for a football coach at the University of Texas, which is not always the easiest thing to do. And he took a chance and took a risk on me as an assistant coach at that time. And then the support that he gave, not only a football program, but the entire athletic department, I think Chris Del Conte would echo the same sentiments was tremendous. I've never seen a president come to a baseball game and go to a volleyball game and be at a basketball game, not only be at the football game and just be part of our community is somebody that will be sorely missed. You know, his leadership was something that I definitely envied and tried to model a lot of things behind. And so he'll be sorely missed. You know, I'm sure the powers that be and Chairman Eltife and all parties involved will find another great president. But he did a tremendous job in the 4 years that I was here, that's for sure.
Stay on the left side, toward the middle. Kirk, you.
Yeah, Kirk Bowles from the Houston Chronicle. Steve, everybody knows you like to script plays. Have you continued to be able to do that in the playoffs? And given your fast starts the last 2 games, have you been tempted to even expand your script?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't, Coach Day touched on it. We don't really change, week to week. There's a formula that I think good programs believe in their formula, and part of our formula is our opening scripts. And that's not going to change this week either. And I'll probably have a press conference at the end where I'll say, man, the opening script was great. Why did it work? Or I'm going to have one that, what happened? What was wrong? But that's not the end all be all. We try to put our players in position to have some success early on and build some confidence. And again, that's been something I've done for quite some time. I'm probably not much different than most programs. But hopefully the ones we script tomorrow night work. We'll see.
We'll stay on the left side toward the back.
Yeah, Yogi Roth, Big Ten Network. Really for both of you, you got a huge job. You're the CEO, you're the face of the school, you're the head coach. Coach Sark, you're still calling plays. I'm curious what's that like in this era for you in your 16th game, and then for Coach Day, what it's been like this season having Coach Kelly and going from the play caller to now truly the head coach and the CEO and giving those duties away.
Well, I think for me, Yogi, you were with me, years ago. That was a long time ago, by the way. I always felt like, when I got hired to do this job, I was the offensive coordinator at Alabama, and we were a pretty good offensive team. And we brought a lot of those same pieces from that staff over. Kyle Flood came, offensive line coach. Jeff Banks came, working with the tight ends. A.J. Milwee was our analyst. He's here coaching quarterbacks. So we all kind of came together, and the rhythm of which we operated, we just kind of continued. And we've kept that continuity. We've had a couple different receiver coaches. We've had 2 running back coaches, but that continuity. And so we've got a pretty good rhythm and routine throughout the week, which I've got a ton of trust in those guys from a preparation standpoint. And then the line of communication on game day for us is just, we've been doing it for so many years now. We're 6 years in of doing it together. Coach Flood and I were together with the Falcons 2 years before that. So we've been together for 8 years now. And so our line of communication is really pretty healthy and clean. I don't know if that day will come. I do know we keep getting more and more stuff put on our plate as head coaches that we have to deal with. But at the end of the day, there's something about that aspect of the game that I love, and as long as I'm decent at it, I'll probably continue to do it.
You're definitely decent at it, Coach. I'd say that. Jeez. I got so much respect for how Coach and his offense and staff and how, first off, they have tremendous amount of weapons, but the way that they come after you, they're very aggressive. And for years, I've always studied Steve's stuff and what he does on offense, and he and I have had conversations about things that we do, and so he's a tremendous offensive mind, and so a lot of respect there. I think for us, on offense, the first thing is, I love that part of it as well, but I felt like it was time for me to just spend a little bit more time of my thoughts and resources with the team, defense, special teams. I felt like late in the week, coming up in your mind with what to call on 4th and 3 on the left hash on the 21-yard line in the fourth quarter, like it consumes your mind, and I think that's what makes great play callers. But it allowed me to step away a little bit, and Chip's been a huge help there. But it's also everybody on that offensive side of the ball. Justin Fry, Brian Hartline, Keenan Bailey, Carlos Lachlan all do a wonderful job, and in our support staff as well. So it's a team effort.
Here on the front row.
Stefan Kreischen, Cleveland.com. For both coaches, we've seen a lot of marquee non-conference games get canceled throughout the country. You guys have maintained the game next year to open the season. Why do you think that's beneficial? And I know it's looking ahead, but how big can that game be for you guys?
Well, I would say this. I just think it's great for our team. Now, with the way that this is set up, I think that you're allowed, a loss or two throughout the season to learn and to grow and to build as a team, where in the past, if you were to lose a game like that, your whole season was ruined. And I think it's healthy. I think it's great for our players. I think it's great for the coaches, and I think it's great for the game.
Yeah, I'd concur. I think one thing that's interesting, when you look at these Final Four teams, none of the Final Four teams played an FCS opponent this year. And I think there's a reason you come to Texas. There's a reason you go to an Ohio State. There's a reason you go to a Notre Dame, a Penn State. It's you want to play in those games. And I think that, as much as, everybody's trying to stockpile wins, I think the players we recruit, they want to go against the best. They want to compete against the players that they went on multiple recruiting visits with, and they got to know a little bit or played in all-star games against. And so you can feel that energy, especially early in the season when you're coming out of the grind to training camp, when you've got a marquee game early in the season, that I think our players look forward to. But it also kind of shapes you for maybe where your deficiencies are, because they can get exposed in games like that you can get fixed throughout the season to get ready for a playoff run.
Let's go in the back here on the right.
Craig Way, Longhorn Radio Network. A question for Coach Day. I've heard your team described as, after the Michigan game, playing angry. Now, I've heard Sark say you want to play with emotion but not play emotional. But have you noticed an emotional uptick from your guys since the Michigan game?
I think that this team plays for each other. And, all year I've been proud of our men, and they're men. They really are. I mean, there's a lot of guys on this team who played a lot of football, and they do play for each other. And that's one of the things that, I continue to talk to this team about is, one, you win, you move on, you get to play together for another week. And I think when they're playing at their best, they're playing for each other. And I think the second thing is there's great stories individually within this team and collectively as a team. But the only way that the story is told about your team is if you win. That's the reality. And so I think they realize that. I think it's a resilient group, and I think they know where they are right now. They know the opponent. I think we're focused on the opponent. But ultimately, it comes down to our execution. And that's really what it is. And when we're executing well, then certainly there's a lot more emotion in the game. That's really what it is. And so we've all really focused on doing our job, coaches and players included.
Let's go to the extreme left now, second row.
Hi. Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. For both coaches, nobody asked the Super Bowl champion where they, did they win their division or not. We already know that in this tournament, there's not going to be a conference champion. In the future, what will the impact be on league championships? Will they matter more? Is it just about getting in the tournament, or will it always be the same emphasis?
It's interesting. I think time will tell what that looks like. I know for us, this was our first year in the Southeastern Conference, and we wanted as much or more than anything to try to capture that championship. And we got an opportunity to get into that game and went into overtime and didn't come out victorious. And then we regrouped and we got ready for this tournament, for this playoff. And so I don't know if they'll ever be diminished to the fact of, that's always one of the goals, right? Especially when you're in the Southeastern Conference or the Big Ten. There's so much history and tradition to these conferences that it means a ton. But I also know there's this other carrot that schools like us strive for as well. And so I hope they don't get diminished. I do think they're going to have to tweak and look at the format of how all of this thing shapes out. Part of it is, we played a conference championship game and then played the first round of the playoffs. Ohio State and Notre Dame didn't play the conference championship game and then played that first round. There were teams that played the conference championship game, then waited a month till their first round game. So where's some of the continuity to that, and what does that look like? But I do think, hey, from the first time out, I don't think many of us are going to complain about this 12-team playoff. I can speak on behalf for us at DKR. Hosting that first-round game was electric. It was a tremendous atmosphere. Now playing in 2 bowl games, from the Peach Bowl to the Cotton Bowl, and is an amazing opportunity for our players. Is this the exact right formula? I don't know. There's some other people who are going to have to look at this, but I think we're off to a good start.
Yeah, I would agree, and I feel like the playoffs is great for college football. I think we're all looking to figure out how to make it better and what that means for the conference championship game. I think we all want to win the conference. That matters. But moving forward, how that looks, I think we're all trying to figure that out. Right now we're just trying to win these games right now and focus on what the task at hand. But I know that there's going to be a lot of conversation in the offseason about this very topic, and at that point, we'll go to work on it.
I believe we have a question here on the front row.
Danny Davis, the Austin American Statesman. Steve, considering Bert's struggles, would you consider going to a different kicker? And if not, what do you need to do you and Jeff need to do to get him right?
Well, I think that's always the challenge of a coach, right? Is, you think about some of those positions. Football is an ultimate team sport, but there's some specific positions that are very kind of individualized. Obviously, you think about snapper, punter, holder, kicker, quarterback even at times, of when do you do that and what does that look like? I think ultimately there's a psychological approach that we've tried to use, and there's obviously the physical approach. And then we'll monitor that thing through pregame and make a decision and go.
Next question, we'll move back to coach's left, second row.
Another question for Coach Sark. We talked to Gunnar Helm recently, and he spoke about the importance of the 3 gears of life that you preach to the guys. What impact does that philosophy have on the team on the field, and where did that philosophy come from?
Yeah, no, that was something that really I took from Pete Carroll. In my time with Coach Carroll, I had spent almost 8 years with him, and he was a tremendous mentor, great leader, great motivator of men. And it really comes down to who you are some of the time is who you are all the time. So if you want to be a great football player, it probably behooves you to be a really good student. It probably behooves you to be a really good human being. And we try to monitor those things and do it in a way that when one aspect of your life can get out of whack, how do we get it recalibrated so that it doesn't affect the other 2 aspects of your life? And I credit the guys like Gunnar Helm, the guys who have been in our program 4 years now, for buying into that idea. Because I think it's permeated throughout our locker room. And the success we're having on the field is a direct reflection of the success we're having in the classroom now, which ultimately is a direct reflection of the success we're having with players getting drafted into the NFL. So it all kind of ties in together. And it was a little bit of a work in progress when we first kind of tried to lay it out to our team because they didn't quite get it. But over time, I think we've starting to understand the value in who you are some of the time is who you are all the time. And I think it's paying dividends for us.
Front row on the left.
Hey, Steve, Cedric Golden, Austin American Statesman. You guys aren't used to being underdog, not here lately, 25-4. Are you guys embracing that role as the underdog, knowing that they're playing only a few hours from the house?
We haven't, Cedric, I think you know me well enough. We don't talk that way. It's Coach Day touched on it. It's a clean slate. And the reality of it is you don't get any points for being an underdog. They don't, you don't get to, hey, we lost by 5, you win. It doesn't work like that in our world. You have to, either win or you lose the game. And so our job is to put forth the maximum effort with great attention to detail to make sure we're right in the mental frame of mind to compete and then ultimately perform and to perform in those critical moments. And so we don't really talk that way. But again, human nature is human nature. You can't sit and think that our guys aren't sitting around and looking at Twitter, because that's what our guys do. When they get on the bus, they pull out their phones like everybody else does. And so they hear that, but we don't really speak that way. But I do think human nature is human nature.
Okay, here on the right now, row 3.
Me? Yeah. Tim May, Letterman Row. For both of you guys, Ryan, what Cody Simon has brought to this defense, especially the last half of the season, he's number 0, by the way, Coach.
I know. I know.
But what has he meant to this defense, the way he's played the last half of the season especially?
Yeah, I think it's noteworthy that both Mike linebackers for both teams are both number 0 in this game. And I think that defenses start with the Mike linebacker, and I think Anthony Hill's a great linebacker and plays tremendously well and is very, very productive. But certainly Cody is the Block O award winner for us, and wearing the Block O means something a little different to us just because it resembles everything that means to be a Buckeye. And Cody Simon does everything right. It's the best way to describe him. And he's become a tremendous football player, the leader of our defense. He communicates the front and the back end. And we know that that's going to be very, very important in this game because their offense does a great job of stretching you horizontally and vertically and making sure that they communicate well and make sure everyone's on the same page. And then tackling really well is going to be important in the game.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out to me is the versatility of Cody. And you think about his ability to stop the run. He's a tremendous tackler. But then you look up, he's got 7 sacks, his ability to get after the quarterback. And you can feel his presence. I think that's the sign of a great middle linebacker is the presence that they possess on the field. And I think that it permeates throughout their defense. So he's a heck of a player.
Okay, let's go in the back, right in front of the TV riser here on the right.
Hi, Ryan, Travis Brown, KBTX. Coming upon a year with Ross Bjork joining the athletic program, what has that year been like working with him?
I can't say enough about Ross in this first year and the way that, he, first off, took time this spring to work with Gene Smith, see how things are, learn, and then work his way into the role. And I thought, that takes somebody who's very secure to be able to work hand in hand with somebody and learn. And I think it was very self-aware. And that way, when he took over, he was, so much further along than if he had just done it without doing that. And so then once he took over, especially for somebody who's been doing it for so long at a successful level, and Gene, he's doing it his own way. He's working very hard. He communicates a lot. We meet every week, but he's at almost every practice. He's even in a short period of time when there's been great wins and a couple rocky moments, but he's been strong during that time. I think it says a lot about who he is as a leader. And we're very fortunate to have him here at Ohio State, and I think he's going to have a great career as the AD.
Let's move back up toward the front here on the left side. AP will be you. Oh, over here, AP on the front row.
AP Stadium of AP as we see it. Coaches, there's choices and options when you prepare for a game such as this magnitude. What are some of your mentors told you through the years how to prepare for this game?
You want both coaches? Okay, Coach Day, you want to take that first?
Sure. Yeah, I think, Coach will say the same thing, that, you want to make sure that you're going to do what you do, but also have some wrinkles along the way. Continue to have the same routine, not make it too big, but at the same time making sure you're having everything that you do covered, and making sure that you're putting your players in a situation to be successful.
I would echo the same thing. I was fortunate. I've been around two of the best, Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, and in their own ways, very different, but at the end of the day, very similar because they're both extremely consistent in who they were. And I think that's always the thing that I took away from those guys when we were in some of those bigger games, that they remain consistent with who they were. And I think as a head coach, that's our challenge, to do that and then remain consistent with our players. And so consistency is always important, but as Coach Day touched on, you always, you got to have some wrinkles. You got to do some things differently, because as you move through playoff and get in games like this, their coaches are too good. They're going to find the chinks in your armor, and you better make sure that you've got ways to combat that.
Inside aisle, we're approaching our final questions toward the back.
Coach Sarkisian, Trey Wallace here from Outkick and Fox. Quinn Ewers yesterday talked about his faith and how he's been able to lean on that during his time at Texas, even a brief stint at Ohio State. How have you seen his growth over the last 4 years, and what he's bring to the locker room, and then where he's at now as a person and as a player?
Yeah, I'm very proud of Quinn. His journey has been unique to him. It's almost like he's the new era of college football. Here's a guy that goes to one school, transfers to another, and ends up playing that school in the semifinals, of just the portal and all that it entails. But it has not been an easy journey for him. There's been ups, there's been downs, there's been injuries, there's been great moments, there's been tough moments, there's been playing his best when his best was needed in critical moments. Last week was no different. But at the end of the day, he's always stayed true to who he is. The guy's been he's been a steady sea for us, and as much as the rocky waters could be around him, he remained very steady, very focused, very attentive to the details. His work ethic has been unmatched. And I've just been proud of him, because I think he's found a source for him that has been a motivating factor where he can play free and play loose and play confidently.
Okay, we'll take two questions and wrap it up and go to our trophy pose. Let's go in the back in front of the TV cameras on the extreme left.
Tyler Danberg, Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio. Question for both coaches. How have your NFL backgrounds influenced the way you've approached for the 12-team playoff?
Go ahead, sir.
Coach Sark?
I think, for me, I was in the NFL for 3 years, and I only made the playoffs one time. But what I do know is, never mind the playoffs, I think the length of the season. We opened the season August 31st, and both of us are trying to finish the season January 20th, and that's foreign territory for college student athletes. Normally, if you play good enough, you get about a 30-day or so break before a bowl game and maybe a second game if it's a 14 playoff. But the consistency of which we have to keep our players focused on the task at hand, as much as it's been physically grueling, which it has been, especially for us, stepping into the Southeastern Conference was different. It was a different style of play. I think it was the mental grind that this format takes on. And so I think finding the time in the NFL, I think the NFL does a great job of allowing players a break when they find those breaks. And the victory Mondays in the NFL we hear all about, where they get Monday and Tuesday off and come back Wednesday. I think that's been important for us. This has been a really long season for us. And as much as, like I said, it's been physically grueling, I think the mental side of it, we've been in must-win situations since we lost to Georgia the first time. And we had to win out in the regular season to get back to the SEC championship game. And then now this playoff started, and it's win or go home. And so I think the mental side of it has been really important to us, that we find moments to take a break, to get a relief from football, so that when they come back, they're re-energized, refocused on the task at hand.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that is exactly what it is. I feel like because of the length of this season and the fact that the bowl game is completely different, these playoff games, the Cotton Bowl experience is very, very different than it was last year even. You come in for a couple days and then you're back home. It's just like a road game. And these games come week after week after week. And so being consistent is very, very important. I feel like there were times in college football when, there were, these roller coaster of emotions, and just, it was a little bit more highs and lows, where the consistency of the NFL, because the length of the season is a little bit more noticeable. And I think that's probably what we're seeing now more than ever. And to Coach's point, it's, for young, these guys are not pros. They're not, in their middle to late 20s. These guys are still, in formidable years. And although they don't always look like it, they are. And so learning to play with this length of a season, there's a lot that comes with that. You got to learn to take care of your body, which takes great discipline. You have to start the game plan on a week-to-week basis over and over again and stay focused for an extended period of time, which takes discipline. And then the emotional build up to a game like this. You don't just walk into AT&T Stadium and play Texas in the Cotton Bowl without getting yourself ready emotionally and spiritually. So all those things, force you to become very, very consistent in your approach and challenges your discipline.
We will sneak in one last question right here on Coach's right.
Joe Nugent, NBC4. This is a quick question for Sark before we get out of here. Do you have any update or anything you can share related to Cam Williams playing tomorrow?
Yeah, Cam will play. That was an easy one, dude.
Yeah, it is. That was a quick one. I told you we'd sneak one last one in.
With that.
Okay, this completes our news conference, and as promised, we will ask our head coaches to pose with the Field Scoville Trophy. Remember, the method to our madness is Hammond Communications, and all the TV cameras will shoot first. When that's done, then we will invite our still cameras and other cameras to come forward. So let's go with the TV cameras. How we doing? Okay, we're done with the TVs. Okay, still cameras, come forward and take your picture.